This video is all about subtraction of whole numbers. In this video we're going to look at the column method. So if we take our first sum, we have 883, take away 690. The first thing we need to do is take that sum and put it into a column. The way the column works is that all the place value must be correct. So we have 883. We need to take away the 690. So take away. Now the 600 will go under the 800. The 9 tens go under the 8 tens of the 883 number, and the 0 goes in the units column. If we can then do the sum. So we always start at the units. 3 take away nothing. Well, 3, because it's a larger number than the 0, it means that we have enough in there already. And 3, if you take nothing away from it, we'll still leave 3. Once we've dealt with the units, we then go to the tens here. So we have 8 take away 9. Now because we only have 8, that means there's not enough in there, so we need to borrow. So we're going to borrow from the column which is 10 times bigger than tens, which is the hundreds column. We're going to take one of those hundreds, which will leave 7. We're again going to pass that 100 across to the tens, and 10 tens make 100. So therefore that's why the one that gets passed across really is a 10, which means that there's now 18 tens in there, because there was the 10 tens from the 100 we borrowed and the 8 that were already in there. Now there are enough. We can do 18 take away 9, which is 9. And then because we've dealt with the tens column, we then just look at the units. So the hundreds. So then it's 700s take away 600s would leave 100. So 883 take away 690 would be 193. The second sum we're going to look at is 2,862 take away 379. Okay, first of all, we need to rewrite our sum in the column. So we'll start off with the 2,862, and from that we are going to take away 379. Now the 300s go under the 800s. The 7 tens go under the 6 tens of the other number, and the 9 units go under the 2 there. Okay, now we've set it out correctly, we can then look at this first column here. So we have 2. We need to take away 9, but 2 is less than 9, so therefore we haven't got enough, so we will need to borrow. We're going to go to the column next door, which is the tens column. We're going to take one of those tens. That leaves 5 tens in there. We're going to chop that 10 up, so it becomes 10 units. We're going to pass it across, so that's 12 now in there. 12 take away 9 is 3. Now we've dealt with units, we're going to look at the tens. We've got 5 tens in there. We need to give away 7 tens, but we can't do that because 5 is not enough. So we're going to borrow this time from the column which is 10 times bigger, which is the hundreds. Borrow one of those hundreds, means there's 7 hundreds left in there, and pass the one that we've borrowed across. Because it was from a column 10 times bigger, that's why it's a 10 that gets passed across, 10 tens. Now we have 15 in there, that's more than enough, so 15 take away 7 is 8. Now we've dealt with that one, we have 7 hundreds, we need to take away 3 of them, so that would leave us with 4, and 2,000 take away this blank space here, which is the same as a 0, means that we don't have to take anything away, so we're still going to be left with 2. So 2,862 take away 379 is 2,483. The next sum we're going to look at is this one. This number is 3,034 take away 2,789. Well, first of all, we need to set it out as a column, so we're going to put 3,034. We are then going to take away this number here, take away 2,000, so that obviously goes under the 3,780, or 8 tens, 9. Okay, first of all, I'm going to start with the units. 4, take away 9. Well, 4 is less than 9, so we can't do that. We need to make sure some extras get put in there. So we're going to borrow from the column next door, which is the tens. We're going to borrow one of those, which means there's 2 left. Pass the 10 that we've borrowed across, then that makes 14, take away 9, which is 5. Then we're going to deal with the tens. 2 tens in there, we need to give away 8. Now we can't do that, so we would go to the column next door, but as you can see, it's actually empty. So before we can borrow one from there, we need to put some in there from the next column up, which is the thousands column. We're going to borrow one of those thousands, so there'll be 2 left. We're then going to pass the 1,000 across, which means that there are going to be 10 hundreds in there, because 10 hundreds actually make 1,000. Now we've got 10 in there, we can borrow, so I'm going to cross that through. We need to take one of those, so there'll be 9 left, and pass the 10 across into the next column. Now we have enough, because 12 is big enough to take away 8. That is 4. We have 9 in the hundreds column. 9 hundreds, take away 7 of them, would leave you with 2 hundreds. And then 2 take away 2 is going to leave you with nothing. So 3,034 take away 2,789 is 245. The final sum we're going to look at is this one. It's 4,003 take away 3,657. First of all, we're going to put it into a column. So I'm going to start off with 4,003. I'm then going to take away this number here, because it says take away 3,657. Right, going to start with the units as always. I've got 3 units, but I need to give 7 away. That means I haven't got enough, because the units that I'm taking away from hasn't got enough in there. It's not big enough. Therefore, we would normally go to the column next door. However, it's empty, so we're going to have to put some in there. We would normally borrow from the column next door, but again, that is empty. So we're going to have to put some in there first before we can then borrow for the other one. So we're going to have to go all the way to the thousands. We're going to borrow one of those, which means there's 3 left. If we chop 1,000 up into 10 pieces, there would be 10 hundreds. Now there's 10 in there, we can borrow one for the tens, so we're going to cross that through and put that there's 9 left. The 10 is going to go into the tens column, because 10 tens are the same as borrowing 100. Now there's 10 in there, there's enough for us to borrow one of them to put into the units column. Finally, we have our 10. That becomes 13 take away 7, which is 6. Now we have 9 tens, and we need to give 5 of them away, so that would leave 4 tens. We still have 9 hundreds in there. We need to give 6 away, which means we'd be left with 3. And then we've got 3,000 take away another 3,000, which would be 0. So our final answer is 4,003 take away 3,657 is 346. Remember, if there is not enough to borrow from one column, just go to the next one to put some in that column before you then borrow. That is the key for subtracting whole numbers.